Welcome to Third Phase UFO Report. I'm Rich Giordano from GUFON, and this is tonight's report. Lue Elizondo was asked the hardest questions he's ever heard, and stumbled a little bit on some of these. We'll also go to Mars with John Ward, and we'll get a report from the panel. Stick around. We got Lue coming up with Third Phase on DrJ Radio Live. Here we go.
We got a question here. Blake and Brett Cousins, they're Third Phase of Moon, the world's largest UFO YouTube channel. And they ask, can you ask Lue, why don't we see the entire Tic Tac gimbal video from the beginning to the end? Has Lue seen the entire video?
Sure. So those videos were released because the contents of which that are now publicly available are not classified. Any information that a video picks up may have classified information. It may have sensitive information like specific call signs. It may have locational data where we are, and we don't necessarily want to broadcast that. So what you see in those videos, Go Fast Gimbal and FLIR, are portions of a video that were deemed to be unclassified and fit for public consumption. The reason why you don't see the rest of those videos, in some cases they don't exist, in other cases they do exist, is because the government has decided that that information is sensitive, and it reveals potentially sources and methods. I can tell you there's many other videos. I think the problem is that people concentrate a lot on the FLIR and those 3 videos that came out back in 2017 and 18, not realizing that was low-hanging fruit. Those were the least compelling of the videos. They were compelling and are compelling, but there's others that really would blow your socks off.
That's what I honestly expected, was that we were getting just the crumbs, and you actually got to see different angles, different videos, right? 4K, 8K, things like that.
I did. I was privy to many other videos and photographs and reporting. But it's important that I always caution people. Videos can only tell you part of the story. It's important that people recognize that what a video doesn't do, it doesn't tell you what happened before the incident, and it doesn't tell you what happened after the incident, and it doesn't tell you what's happening from other perspectives and angles, and that's why you need other video, right? So who's to say that there's not other FLIR video out there, right? From another platform, and radar signature, maybe from an E2 Hawkeye and the Princeton and some other radar sensor units out there. So again, I want to be careful because I don't want to speak on behalf of the government right now. It's really not my place to do so. But I think people can rest assured that there's far more compelling information out there, and that's what Congress was briefed on, and that's why you have now this government taking this topic very, very seriously.
What an outstanding answer. Now you have to imagine, okay, that you're somebody who isn't well versed in ufology listening to Lue for the first time, second time, whatever. It's not us listening. This is made, all what Lue is doing is trying to get the general public to go along with what he's saying. And I don't think he's saying anything that bad, to be honest. A lot of people don't believe him. He's a disinfo guy, but he did say he saw other pieces, longer versions of the videos, but the reason they can't show them is because there may be some sensitive information, call signs and other things that, you can't show the public. Then he goes on to talk about how these videos don't tell you the whole story. There's something that happened before what we see and after what we watched. So there's always this information that we never get to see because there may be sensitive information. Fine. And, he also said, can't really say too much, but he saw different angles. He saw 4K, high def, all different clearer videos. And if that's true, then that's an admission that this stuff is being hid from the public. To me, speaks volumes.
DarkHour Paranormal reads, what is the biggest risk in revealing high technology that may exist while keeping the mechanics under wraps?
What is the biggest risk and in revealing? Well, I don't think there's a risk revealing the fact that there are these advanced capabilities, and I think we've done that, and I think we're doing that. Again, what we do need to pay attention to is the protection of our sources and methods and our collection activities. And that's only because not because we don't trust the American people, it's because we don't trust our adversaries. We don't want to tip our hand, because if we're using these capabilities against our adversaries, we don't necessarily want to let them know, because we spend a lot of money trying to develop these things, right? And we don't want them to develop countermeasures. So that's the normal world of intelligence and that type of related work. So again, it's not that we don't trust the American people. There's just no way to have that conversation with 500 million people and keep it from our enemies. But I do think you're starting to see look, we have conversations all the time that there are rogue nations that have, nuclear technology. Maybe the specifics of that technology is classified, but the fact that that country has nuclear technology isn't so much a secret. The same thing with this, the fact that there are things flying around in our controlled airspace that we don't know what the heck they are. We don't know how they work, and we frankly don't have a clue for where they're from or what the intent is. That's not a secret, and it shouldn't be a secret. I don't think physics and the mathematics should be a secret. What I think should remain a secret is our critical technology. I will tell you this right now, that if I had to choose between disclosure and full disclosure and sacrificing our national security, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't sacrifice our national security for that. Now, is there a way to have a conversation where we can still have disclosure and protect national security? Well, that's precisely what my colleagues and I are trying to do. We're trying to thread that needle very carefully. None of us want to compromise national secrets. None of us want to hurt this country. But what we do want to do is get that information that's not classified, that information that does squarely belong to the people of the United States and potentially the world, but certainly your taxpayer dollars were paid to find answers, and now we have some answers.
Well, Lou kind of said the obvious thing and the correct thing, and that we can't reveal the technical aspect, but we can reveal the capability, and that's what they're trying to do. Well, we've been doing that for years, talking about the capability. What Lou said is that he will not risk national security to reveal the secret of UFOs. So what does that mean? Does he really know how these vehicles work? Does he know more than you or I? And why would they reveal a secret like that to Lou? Did he stumble upon it? I mean, I thought he left ATIP because he wasn't getting to the next level and getting the information he wanted, because, they're demons. So are they demons? Are they esoteric? He sees the capabilities and he doesn't want, to violate his security and the security of the nation here. He doesn't want to reveal it, and they don't want to reveal it because our adversaries might get their hands on it and figure it out. We don't want that. Yeah, that makes sense. So not really anything new, but he says that's what me and my colleagues are trying to do, is bring this information to the public the safest way we can. Right.
How far advanced do you think private corporations have in technology? Do you think Lockheed Martin may have developed a Tic Tac? Has Lou asked Lockheed what assets they have in their possession?
Wow. That's a really good question. Let me answer this way. Have we asked? Yes. I'm not going to tell you what the answer is because part of that answer requires approval from certain organizations and military contractors, and I'm not at liberty to answer on their behalf. I've made it very clear what I said, and I went right up to that line by saying, when I was asked, do I think that the U.S. government is in possession of this exotic material? And I said yes. and I stand by that. But at this point, I really can't elaborate much more beyond that, only because this is still unfolding. And what we don't want to do is, I mean, the truth be told, the last thing we want to do is to scare the gopher to go back into its hole. It's just now poking its head out of the hole, and we're trying to coax it, saying it's okay to come out. It's okay to have this conversation. So, what I don't want to do is preemptively say something that all of a sudden forces the gopher to go back underground for the next 70 years.
So I'd have to say, you're right, Lou. It is a good question, but the answer that we got out of this one isn't quite clear. You could see that at one point, Lou's having some loss of words in regards to some of the statements that he's trying to basically spit out, but he knows in the back of his mind there's certain things that he cannot say. And one of them is indeed that there is this private organization, possibly like Lockheed Skunk Works, that has this technology. He was almost admitting it there, but it's kind of interesting that they did go ahead and indeed ask Lockheed Skunk Works if they had the Tic Tac or gimbal, basically. So
now that was a question that stumbled Lou 3 solid seconds of silence to think of the answer, and we kind of got the same answer we've heard before, more or less, that yes, he has asked or had conversations with Lockheed Martin, and he said before in the past that when somebody asked, do we have these exotic materials? And Lou said, do you think the U.S. has these exotic materials? And Lou said, yes, but that's all I can expound on this. Can't say any more. So here we go again. Can't say any more. See, you can't have it both ways. Lou can't. Nobody can. This is why he can't answer. He can say, sort of, but, yeah, I think we do have it. I think we have these exotic materials. But what he's afraid of is that if he starts talking about it any more than that and revealing too much, he says that these corporations, private corporations, the ones that are getting secretly funded, sounds familiar, that they will go back into their hole for another 70 years. But nobody takes the risk. Why? What would happen? There's questions I have for Lou, and they're pretty good. Like, what would happen to you and your family if you revealed the things that you say you can't reveal? Do you have a go bag ready? Do you think people are watching you? Because it seems like the guy's a little worried. And I think he's keeping the oath, but still.
I got the final question from Third Phase of Moon. How far advanced do you think the U.S. government or private corporation are in advanced tech that the public is not aware of? The B-1 bomber was classified for 40 years until the public was aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of advanced tech. I'm not going to go into it right now. That's certainly not my place to do that. But the U.S. government and other countries are always trying to maintain a competitive advantage over their adversaries. And we should. I think that's money well spent. We have a tremendous amount of advanced technology in this country. Now, if you're asking the question of if that was a derivative of some sort of UAP, the answer to that would be, unfortunately, it's pretty. That type of vehicle would be very, very advanced, and it should be no surprise that if let me give you an example. It's a bit like imagine an aircraft, a 747 that crashes in the Amazon, and everybody escapes. They jump out of the plane with parachutes, and everybody's fine. But the plane crashes, and a indigenous group of people from the Amazon who've never seen human beings outside of their own little, if you will, village, come across bits and pieces of this aircraft. and they find glass from the cockpit. They pick it up and they realize that glass can be used to skin the meat from their kill much easier, right? So they reverse engineer the glass, and they're using it now as a tool to cut skin away from the meat, right? That's not the intended purpose of the glass, right? And there's no way they're going to recognize that, how to rebuild a 747 in the middle of the Amazon. But it doesn't mean that there isn't bits and pieces that can be picked up and certain things gleaned from that. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. I'm not going to speak on behalf of our government what it has or has not done. But that's probably a better analogy when answering that question. Do we have the skill sets needed to even study and investigate something like that? Well, we're now beginning to realize that the physics probably lies within the realm of quantum physics.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't understand it very well.
Yeah.
So there's probably a lot more we need to learn before we could figure out how to reverse engineer something like that.
The example you said with Amazon, I'm going to steal the example that Bob Lazar said. Take this iPhone, drop it in the wagon trail days. They can have an unlimited budget. They wouldn't come close to even figuring out what it is, let alone powering it up.
Right.
Impossible. Now,
well, you need an entire infrastructure, right? You need an ability to charge the phone, right? You need an ability to do a lot of things with that phone. You need cellular service for the phone to work, and you need GPS if you want to use a GPS. And there's these multi-billion-dollar industries set up for every single one of the capabilities on your smartphone. And unless you have all of those in place, chances are you're not really going to be able to utilize it very well.
Kind of a cliche answer, if you ask me. Yeah, what if an airplane crashed in the Amazon and all the survivors, got out by parachute, and then the plane crashes, and then an indigenous tribe finds the airplane, and they break the glass and they use it to cut meat, and it's not what a plane is for. The glass isn't for that. It can be used for that, but it's kind of equating to, well, if a UFO crash landed or we had access to one, that we wouldn't have the infrastructure or the know-how to use it. Maybe we can figure out certain things like, let's say, like they used to say, I don't remember the guy who said it, Philip Glass, or Corso said it, that we got Kevlar, right? That was given to the public, laser, and there were some other things, that we were able to figure out from maybe not back engineering an alien craft, but back engineering maybe the technology, but not knowing how the craft works, we were able to obtain lasers and Kevlar and some other small things that are really important to society. Look, I get all that. But Lou can't answer any important question that means anything. Will they be, how far advanced are these private corps? I can't answer that. But I could tell you this. If an airplane crashed in the Amazon, come on. He doesn't know. See, that's the confusing thing. It conflicts with what he said earlier, that he's seen better video. He's seen things at Lockheed that he can't talk about. It's for national security purposes. He can't talk about it. Really? I'm not. See, now I'm a little bit upset. All right, let's get to the last question. This is great.
So can you talk about what you're doing with your colleagues to further the truth to get to where we want to get to, which is seeing the facts?
Yeah, well, I think that will probably become apparent here at some point in the future, but we are working very hard, very diligently behind the scenes. We are engaging our friends and colleagues, both in the legislative side and the executive side of our government. We're also engaging the media and foreign countries to stimulate the conversation and facilitate that conversation between our country and theirs. We're doing a lot of things to help us pursue this initiative. There's 5 pillars of emphasis. I'll restate them again of what
The
we've
5
been
variables,
doing.
right?
No, not observables. No.
Okay,
There's also happens to be 5 areas of think of this as a military or an intelligence campaign. What we are doing is very deliberate. It's very, very methodical, and has to be synchronized. So, and very well coordinated. So, in essence, the first pillar of emphasis is legislative engagement, which is where Chris Mellon comes into play, making sure that our elected officials know this is a good conversation and it's okay to have this conversation. And then the second pillar of emphasis is executive level engagement in our executive branch, so department heads and secretary level, letting them know that this is a national security issue and they should pay attention to it, right? And to hell with stigma and taboo, because this topic isn't going away. The third area of emphasis is foreign government engagement, engaging our friends and allies, putting them in contact with the right people here in Washington, D.C. for them to get more information and perhaps start sharing information that they may have on this topic with us and vice versa. The fourth area of engagement is media engagement, and that is engaging mainstream media so they know it's okay to have the conversation as well. 3 years ago, nobody in their right mind would have touched this conversation.
So the question was, what are your plans? How are you going to spread the message now that you're not with TTSA or ATIP or anybody holding you back? He says he's going to go to the public, which is going to be a deliberate, methodical, and synchronized effort, which means he's going to have his colleagues and everybody else that he knows who can help spread the message, talk to people in the government, the media. Like, he's got the 5 pillars of emphasis: legislative engagement to let officials know it's okay to have the conversation. The second one was the executive level of engagement with secretaries, department of heads, etc. Let them know it is a security issue, and to hell with the taboo and stigmatism because the conversation isn't going away. The third is foreign government engagement. Help the allies, teach them how to spread this message. And 4 is media engagement, that it's okay to talk about this stuff. Let's not be scared anymore. So that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to tell everybody it's okay to talk about it. Who's controlling the media? How is he getting on Fox, CNN, MSNBC? Doesn't the public have a voice in this? That's what is effectively bothering me at this moment. I don't like that the public doesn't have a voice in this, and that Lue and his colleagues, Mellon and whoever else, are the ones that are to take this to the media, legislative, you know what I mean? Foreign governments. I don't know, man. It's too perfect. And why now? That's what I want to know. Somebody should ask Lue why now. All right, we're going to move ahead to Mars. Thank you, Lue Elizondo and DrJ Radio Live. Great job.
Third phase of Moon.
Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins here. We've got a special report for you. We're going to take a trip to the red planet Mars. A lot of topic in regards to the mysteries. If there's life on the red planet itself, some people are stating that they found mushrooms on Mars, but there is this photograph that has come out via the rover, which showcases something very interesting. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to be going over tonight that, in my opinion, showcases that there is indeed something of intelligent life that once or still does exist on Mars. And as we're looking at these photographs and all the evidence that we're going to be going over tonight, it's incredible to look at. This doesn't look natural, if you ask me. Could it be fungi? Could it be petrified fungi? I'm not exactly sure. It's interesting. NASA has been stating just recently, if we don't find any kind of life on Mars, this means that they might have to change their whole rule book, that they might think that there is no life out there at all. That's what they're saying. That's bizarre, if you ask me. That if they don't find life on one planet, that doesn't mean it exists anywhere else. It's kind of crazy what NASA's saying, as well as what they stated today, is that they're going to be having to maybe look for life beyond comprehension, basically meaning that they have to look for something. If it's living, they don't even know what to look for. They're having to think out of the box, because if you're looking for life and you don't know what's out there, how do you even know what to look at? This is, again, coming in from NASA.
It is dangerous to remain here.
Man, I love Mars just like the next person, but
Do you want me to repeat?
I don't know if we're looking at petrified mushrooms. These things would have to be enormous. And it doesn't mean it can't happen, but there have been pictures coming from Mars from the rovers of supposed lake, like water, running water. We know that water has spewed up from underground and cascaded over sand dunes. We've seen those pictures, but Mars is very strange. We get a lot of pictures we have no proof of. I wish they would fly that little drone helicopter over there, because that camera points down. That would do a great job to get real close if it's working. But as far as these things, they sure do look like mushrooms. But again, you know, it's Mars, and a lot of pareidolia comes into play. I don't know if these are toppled over rocks or whatever, but they sure do look like mushrooms. That would be wild, wouldn't it? All right, Jean Ward has brought some stuff to Third Phase of Moon. We're going to get to that. So sit back and relax and watch the panel discuss a possible Eye of Horus on Mars. Here we go, guys. Stay buckled in.
Gene Ward has submitted to me incredible Google Mars imagery that relates to construction built on Mars that resembles construction on Earth in regards to the Egyptian pyramids. What's it all about? We've got a special panel tonight with Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio. We're going to go out to Los Angeles and speak with Opala Asteria. She's been to Egypt and she's looking over these discoveries right now. It's going to be an incredible update from her. And we're also going to go to Arizona with Doc Skinner and get his insight, including DrJ. It's going to be an incredible ride tonight. Hang on, everybody. We also got my brother Brent Cousins with me. Let's get to it and take a look at Gene Ward's evidence. We're going to break it down.
And that object is about 15 meters in length and about 8 meters wide. And if we zoom in on it, we can see it consists of this larger part with this funny scoop in front and this little protrusion coming out of the ridge line over there, and then on the side what looks like a little winglet. And if you've been following my channel, I've always speculated this could be some type of craft or machine, but actually a friend of mine looked at this and said, hang on a second, she's seen something very similar to this and immediately identified it as it could be a Scarab Beetle sculpture. This one is found in the British Museum, and this one at the Karnak Temple Complex. And if we check out the similarities over here, we can see it's got the larger body at the back, the little protrusion coming out of that ridge line on either of those two structures, and then that little scoop in front. And then on the side here, what looks like one of the legs.
Let's go to Opala Asteria. She's been in Egypt. She could relate to some of these things that have been discovered by Gene Ward. What's your thoughts, Opala?
Okay, this structure here, it does look a lot to me like a structure. At first I was looking at it, I'm like, it doesn't look that much different than the other, what appears to be rocks around it. But now that I look at it a little closer, there is some abnormalities in the size and shape of it. So now that he compares it to the Scarab Beetle, wow, this is very interesting. So I actually went on a research trip in Egypt 3 years ago, and I bought a little Scarab Beetle stone, very much like the one up in the right hand corner here. And it does look exactly like that. I do have to admit that it looks very much the same.
Let's go out to Arizona. Doc Skinner, what's your insight on this one, Doc?
All right, so we're looking at this image that's in looks like a debris field of rocks. Now he focuses in on this one that we're going to call the Scarab. And what's wild is he says we're going to focus in on that, but there's a rock off to the right that I actually want to see. It looks like an alien's face upside down. I don't know. That's just me. You know, there's that weird mental thing where you can see things in objects. So I don't know. But this is he zooms in on this one object that looks like a gigantic carving of a scarab. And at first I was looking at it thinking like he did, it could be a craft. But then he points out the scarab and he puts along the comparison of the scarab statues. And the thing that sells it for me is the dip and that little nose that you see, that if you look at it sideways, it looks like a face. But in the idea of a scarab, does look very, very close and similar to the statues he compares them to. So, don't know unless I went there, but and looked at it myself. But yeah, it looks like a scarab.
Let's take it out to Los Angeles to Dr. J. Dr. J, what's your thoughts on these incredible discoveries by Gene Ward?
Yeah, that's why I always love footage like this. Catching stuff from Mars of possibly ancient civilization, which is what it looks like with our ancient civilizations here on Earth. Now, this is really interesting. A scarab. Okay, I wouldn't have personally thought of scarab myself. However, when you look at the two side by side, it's very uncanny. Now, however, there are tons of other stuff here on Earth that you could say looks like those buildings. But in ancient Egypt artifacts, this is something that their culture does look like. Now, I don't think that a beetle was what was used to fashion giant buildings on Mars. I don't think Mars got their impression from the beetle, but why they look similar, you know, the scarab is a natural thing, it's supposed to be, you know? So that's the irony of this, but again, the fact that we have more and more evidence showing on Mars of stuff that looks like from Earth is very compelling.
Look, the reality is we've always wondered whether or not there was once life on Mars. Was it civilized? Was there an ancient race that once used Mars as its home planet? Was it taken out by nuclear weapons in a nuclear war or some sort of fallout? The reality is we do not know. Until we get more science on Mars, right now what we're looking at is a bunch of pareidolia. Our eyes and our brain are trained in order to pick out objects and try and recognize them with something that we have seen before. I think that's a lot of what is happening right now when we look at anything on Mars. Look, there are some strange anomalies. Never mind the bug that this gentleman says is there. It does look like that, but that could also be natural formation of thousands of years of windstorms, rainstorms, snowstorms, whatever the climate is on Mars. We don't know.
Then the other anomaly we're checking out is right there. This measure is about 510 meters across, and up close it looks pretty much like the eye of Horace. We can see the eyebrow there, two eyelids and the pupil inside, and we can compare it to that pendant with the Egyptian sky god, as Horace is known.
All right, in this image, we'll call it the Eye of Horus. All right, it is, when zoomed in, something that looks like the Eye of Horus, and you have an eyebrow. There's no denying it. That's what it looks like. And the ridge at the top that is supposed to be creating the eyebrow is different from the rest of the natural structure. Now, I'm looking at it thinking, okay, those are cliffs going down into a cavern.
it could be runoff, and those are like the runoff lines. That's a possibility. Now, as he zooms out, we look at it. Yes, there are large monuments that can only be seen from space, but the fact that this has been pressed up against a gigantic other structure, just something doesn't fit right with me on this one. It could be that thing where you look into things and you can see what you want to see. I don't know, but up close, it does look like the Eye of Horus. Hands down, will not deny. But the fact that if it was done on purpose, why did they press it up against this other large plateau structure? I don't know. It kind of throws me off. So this one, I don't know.
And that about wraps it up for Third Phase UFO Report. I want to thank everybody for hanging out. The panel, Jean Ward and Lue Elizondo on DrJ Radio Live. I'm Rich Giordano from GUFON. You can see me 6 nights a week live right here on YouTube. It's GUFON, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, Sunday through Friday. Thank you very much. I'm heading out of here. Thank you, Third Phase of Moon. And we'll see you next time on Third Phase UFO Report. Take care, everybody.